born ready?
I was born ready, yeah.
I think you actually maybe only, like, all I heard was born ready potentially coming into the, you never know. We'll see where that cuts in afterward.
To clarify, I was born ready to do Unauthorized Caucus.
I was born ready to do Unauthorized Caucus. You got to be careful. You offer that I was born ready business, something's coming.
Something is coming today.
Something's coming.
You know what's coming today? Dueling headlines.
Man, you just get right to the point.
Yeah, because I enjoy this. I like the meat. I like to dive into the meaty stuff.
I like the meat too, but there's the appetizers. There's the appetite. No, I'm kidding. Oh, well, welcome. Welcome. It's Thursday. It's noon.
It's caucus time.
Caucus time. He's not going to miss it again. Oh, boy. But it is caucus time. It's Thursday. It's noon. And we are here with a lot going on today. Sometimes, you know, we like to dive into deep topics and get down into something. And we may actually do a little bit of that today. But there's so much going on. We literally couldn't agree on a topic. So rather than cage fight, we decided to just bring a few each, which we do on occasion, and give you guys the alphabet soup of a title for the episode, which you have already seen, and this is now why you saw that, because here we are at our dueling headlines. So There's a lot going on. But before we get there, let me remind you, go over first of all to, well, wherever you are, if you're on all the socials, if you're watching this on X, on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Rumble, make sure to hit the like button, hit the share button, share it to your account, send it to someone, make sure they know you're watching this. Or if you're on our podcast listeners, grab the podcast, take a screenshot, send the link, whatever you want to do, tell someone else to listen in, and then you guys can have the same discussion as well, as we all ought to be having. And then, of course, go to unauthorizedcaucus.com. That is where you're going to find all the goodies, including the last episodes, all the videos, the podcast. You'll also find our email sign up, because the all-important redacted email that comes out after every podcast every week is incredibly important. Last week, we had a ton of links.
A lot.
I mean, there were a lot of links.
It might have been a record.
It was a record. It took me a little while to get it out because I had to format it all, and I had to get, oh my goodness. But there was a lot of extras. So you enjoyed the hour that we spent talking about it. We sent you hours worth of reading to go and do if you want to know more, which, again, be informed, be educated, and then take that and turn that information into armament and go kick a leftist in the teeth. Proverbially, physically, metaphorically, unless you get attacked and it's self-defense, and then go ahead.
You just said physically.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, if it's self-defense, then fine. But anyway, go kick the left in the teeth. Send them back to the gates of hell or whatever it is. And again, you know, it's the left. I'm not just talking about your liberal neighbor who doesn't know any better. I'm talking about the crazy communists who want to kill us all, because that's what it is. So now that we've just gotten really controversial, I guess it's time. We should pop in. We have a lot of topics. We got a couple of videos that we're going to play for you. We don't do that very often, but we're going to today, because sometimes stupidity needs to speak for itself.
Amen.
Amen. That's why we're here in front of you. No, I'm kidding.
That's why he lets me on.
That's not true. We the fan club, the fan clubs, which, by the way, I'll remind you, go and sign off. Go and sound off in the Rumble chat, in the YouTube chat, Facebook comments. We see them all. We'll get to them. We'll be typing in here as we go. We'll respond. But, of course, Rumble's the place to be, because the Rumble people are rabid and savage, and I love it. They also ignore us half the time and have their own conversation, but that's neither here nor there. So we have a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of things to get into. Who wants to go first? Do you want to go first? You want me to go first?
I went first last time.
Did you go first last time? Okay, I'll go first
last
this time.
we did dueling headlines, I went first.
I don't remember that, but that sounds like something that I would have made you do. So here's the first thing that I have. First of all, well, by the way, the Trump trial has just continued to go on and devolve into craziness. And this is where I have one of our links that I'd like to share. We'll just watch a minute of the video. It is purely political. Purely political. There's no other way around it. And here's a quick hot take. Everyone showed up this week because Michael Cohen, all I can hear in my voice is Trump's voice in 2016 or 15, president-elect, whenever he gave his first, "You are fake news." And he pointed his finger at Jim Acosta. Michael Cohen, it wasn't even that Michael Cohen. That's all I can remember. Michael Cohen, the convicted perjurer, their best witness to convict Trump. That doesn't tell you everything you need to know. Who are your star witnesses? Well, a hussy for money and a convicted liar. These are your two best?
Right.
Great. It's purely political. I've seen it across the board. Geraldo Rivera, who I do not like or have much respect for, even he was talking about how terrible this is, and this is just a travesty to justice. This is one misdemeanor, not 34 felonies. They're drumming it up. Ed said it on the Pro America Report yesterday. Here's one question, and then we'll get to the clip. What do you think about this week? Several people showing up. J.D. Vance was there Monday. He showed up. Now that makes sense. He's a VP hopeful. But then yesterday, or not yesterday, Tuesday. Tuesday. I don't know what day it is anymore. Tuesday, Speaker Mike Johnson showed up, and he had Byron Donalds behind him, and Doug Burgum was there. Doug? John? Doug Burgum.
It's Doug Burgum.
Doug Burgum. Oh my goodness, I just questioned myself as we went through it. But Burgum was there. Donalds was there. There were a little host of congressmen, a cadre of congressmen behind him. Speaker Johnson came in. I know everyone was talking about, look at the show of people standing behind Trump, and Johnson talked about how ridiculous and disgusting this was. And we've railed Johnson over the coals here several times. Here's my question though: is it really a good for them for showing up moment? Or is it a, where have you been for the last 4 weeks? This is week 5 of the trial. Why have you not been here? Now, I know Michael Cohen was supposedly the big star witness for the other side, so he's taking the stand this week. Maybe that's why they come and show up. But I kind of look at it and I'm like, good for you. You finally showed up. Where were you when this first started or before it? Because many of us have been decrying this from the very beginning as political shenaniganry, and it's a show trial. But they're here now, so I'll take it. But also, I kind of don't feel like they deserve much credit. You think I'm going overboard there, or what's your take on it?
Well, which of them have decried this in the past? Because I don't know. I mean, I'm asking that. Like, have these guys like J.D. Vance and Burgum and Vivek and Mike Johnson? I feel like Mike Johnson has called out the show trials against Trump in the past.
Yeah, I think all of them have.
So, they were alongside us decrying it.
Right.
So when you look at it that way,
we
it's
haven't
like,
showed up, to be fair.
Yeah.
So,
it's like,
okay.
Ryan, why haven't you gone?
Yeah, why haven't you gone, Mason?
Yeah, exactly. So
okay, that's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I would cut them some slack, especially because these are political guys working in. If they were going to come to the trial, it's not like they could just be there the whole time. They're not witnesses. They're not defendants. They're not.
They're not Trump.
Yeah.
Who must be there the whole time.
So it's cool that they come at all, just to be out there and support.
Yeah, I guess that's right. And that's the thing. Like I said, my first reaction was, oh, good for you for showing up. And then I'm like, yeah, good for you. Where have you been? Why didn't you just go up there? But anyway, that's a good point. That's valid.
They're coming for the fun part.
They are coming for the fun part. But here's the deal. As this just goes on, and it becomes more and more laughable as Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen have now testified. These folks are showing up. It's becoming very easy to talk about how ridiculous this is. However, it's also pretty easy to slip and accidentally talk about how political it is if you didn't mean to. This is one of my clips. Yesterday, our illustrious KGP, I should go by my initials. Apparently, that's the hip thing to do.
A beautiful French woman.
A beautiful French lesbian.
Oh,
Let's remember all of the DEI practices that got her into office, or into her
office. It was definitely because she was French. That's why they.
No, it's not at all. So, our wonderful DEI hire press secretary in the White House actually slipped and referred to the Trump trial as what it is, and didn't mean to. I don't think. Just take a look. We won't watch the whole video, but I want you to see this. Not that. Pause. We're gonna try this one more time. My buttons are yeah.
Was it appropriate for Speaker Johnson to show up at the trial of the former president today?
So look, I can't speak to, don't want to comment, obviously, as this is related to 2024 elections, and I can't speak to the speaker's schedule. That is something for him to decide on, and let's not forget, this is also connected to a independent judicial process, so going to be really mindful, and he makes his choices on what he does, with his business. That is his choice to be made. What I can speak to is obviously what the president is speaking to today.
So I can't talk about the trial because that's a 2024 thing, and I mean also it's an independent judicial process. Yeah, it's that too. She just literally called it a part of the election, a political process.
It is an independent judicial process. It's not also an independent judicial process. Like that's the narrative, that this is a defense of justice by democracy, the titans of democracy that want to defend our democracy, and Trump did bad. Like that's the story, that's the bad thing. That's the first thing. Not that, oh, this is part of the 2024 election fight. But she.
So I can't really talk about it. When the lie, I said it, you got to let the stupidity feed. When the lie is so bad that you either A, just don't really care anymore, or B, everyone is, the people at high places, again though, welcome to DEI hires, it's not like she's the best choice. I never thought that someone would make me miss Jen Psaki, but I miss Jen Psaki because KJP is just not,
because at least
smooth.
she wasn't French.
That's just the French part now, but at least she was somewhat smoother-ish, although she got in trouble with her book this week and had to redact something after it was published, but that's a whole separate issue. So there you go. The 2020, the Trump trial in Manhattan is a political affair, a 2024 affair. You heard it from Joe Biden's White House press secretary herself. It's a 2024 political item. She can't count on it. Oh, by the way, it's also an independent judicial review. I mean, it's, there you go. That just dumb, nail in the coffin. The Trump trial is political.
Trump's team better save that as evidence when...
I have it.
Yeah, when Trump's back in office and they strike back for actual election interference.
Yep. Raw political power must be used against these people who are trying to destroy the country. And also doing everything they accuse us of doing. And that raw political power means firing and throwing people in jail. So, there you go. That's my first news item. We just did just slight recap on the Trump thing is where we are, but also it's beyond the pale now. You can't even talk about it. No one has any credibility left who wants to tell you that this is a serious judicial matter. It's not. Period. What's on your list?
First on my list, doxing doesn't work anymore. There was an interesting story yesterday from The Guardian that they, I'll read the... I think we're not going to send this in the redacted email. We'll send the victim's analysis of it because I don't want The Guardian getting any more views for this than they deserve, which they deserve 0. But revealed U.S. university lecturer behind far-right Twitter account and publishing house. And this journalist, Antifa-type dude, Jason Wilson, scum of the earth journalist, terrible person, a political activist for the radical left, spent months digging into this guy's life. So this guy goes by Lomez on Twitter, and he started a publishing house called the Passage Press, which publishes old literature and new literature from some more dissident type people, and it's very good quality publishing. And they have like writing competitions with lots of prize money, so more people can get out there. But this guy spent months, tracking this guy down and doxing him. And the dox came out yesterday, and it kind of blew up in his face because it turns out that this guy wasn't some neckbeard, Cheeto-covered basement dweller. He was a college athlete that has a family, worked for Google, and was an academic for 10 years, which is, if anything, this helps this guy's credibility a lot because it's, oh, this is a serious and successful person that's now on to another serious and successful endeavor. And the dox has done nothing. He's only gained followers. Christopher Rufo was, promoting this guy after this came out. I think that the Passage Press is probably going to see some more sales for their books and writing collections coming out. But I'll read off what Lomez said when this came out. What he said is, breaking: The Guardian has exposed a family man with a loving wife and many beautiful children who played college basketball, worked for Google, traveled the world, and then had a 10-year career in academia before starting a highly successful publishing company. I'm shook. This person has been stalking Lomez for months. He is a Portland-based Antifa activist paid by multi-billion-dollar media conglomerates to harass people. He's been emailing and texting presumed former colleagues, texting my wife, attempting to get friends fired from their jobs for merely knowing me, invoking my deceased father, threatening to expose my blog post from 20 years ago, my high school and college athletic achievements, please do, and even my nickname from middle school, a truly deranged individual. There is no story here. Of course, none of this even passes the lowest journalistic standards. It's obsessive, delusional behavior intended to activate violent leftist mobs who he calls his friends and who share in his delusions. Legal action is certainly on the table. Immediately people were saying, hey, Elon Musk, you said doxing is a bannable offense. Can we please ban The Guardian and this trash journalist from this website now? Hopefully they do. Hopefully the Guardian is just out of there completely.
I feel like doxing has changed a lot in the last few years.
That used to be it. If somebody got doxed,
Yeah.
they were done. Now it's just not the case anymore, at all. And to add to the hilarity of it, this journalist, he didn't include any pictures of the guy he's doxing. Any pictures of Lomez in it, because. But people started, comparing what Lomez looked like to what this journalist looked like, and this journalist is, ugly freak. Yeah, you have it open on your page right now.
Yeah, I'm looking all over.
Yeah, he's an ugly freak. Whereas Lomez on his Rate My Professor had multiple reviews talking about, oh, this guy's nice to look at. I like taking this guy's classes because he's handsome, which is hilarious. But that points to one of the fundamental differences between the left and the right, is that the left is resentful of anything good or strong or beautiful. The good, the true, and the beautiful, the Hillsdale things. The left is resentful of those things, and that is their primary motivation, to tear down what they are resentful of, because they themselves have their own inabilities. They're unable to overcome their own deficiencies, and so instead of working on themselves and trying harder, they lash out and attack people better than them. And that's what's going on here. And I think that this is only going to be good for this publishing house.
Yeah, and I would say that one of the very interesting things about this, I think that the libs of TikTok is the case that told me doxing didn't matter anymore. Because what they used to be able to do was fire you, get you fired from your job, whatever it was, blackball you in public society. Well, Trump, its heart, not in the bad way, in the good way, Southerners. The era of Trump has just brought this new about, fine, dox me, come at me. That's what happened. Libs of TikTok gets revealed as Kaya Reichik, and she just takes on her own personality. Fine, I'm just going to open up my own Twitter now, and I'll run Libs of TikTok and my own thing. And in fact, I'm going to go meet face-to-face with some of my haters. If you never saw that interview with her and Taylor Lorenz, it was absolutely awkward and hilarious. But the right wing is embracing who they are, because sometimes there is a benefit, like this Lomez. There's a legend that grows around it when it's not you, but it's this thing that no one knows. It really does get under the left's skin, particularly more when they don't know who it is. But then they find out who it is, and that probably even sends them over the edge. Because to your point here, it's actually some normal-looking guy with a normal life. Again,
very successful.
We could have and you're right. We could have a whole episode devoted to the understanding of the purple-haired people eaters and nasty leftists versus the right-wingers. And I mean, that's not to say that all right-wingers are good-looking, successful people and all left-wingers are just mean and evil and ugly.
But they do tend towards those extremes.
They tend towards those extremes, but there's a point to be made there about natural order and accepting it or rejecting it. God created a natural order, but that's a whole separate talk in itself. But anyway, Kaya Reichik seemed to throw off the mantle of doxing. Fine, don't care. Come at me, I'll do it myself. And there's opportunities now, especially with monetizing content. If you successfully get content going and you just decide to throw off the mantle of anonymity and grab the monetization that can happen, because it's not just YouTube who will cut you off. There's other places to monetize, on X, on Rumble. Substack. You could actually find, I don't care if I have my job or not. And I agree with you. I think that is gone as a concept in large part. It's still there. A lot of people who are afraid of it, but I think that the big scare of it from the top down is at this point disappeared. I saw, though, Jack Poso told me last night on his Twitter account that it was Barron Trump was Lomez.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So this doxer got it all wrong.
If you're not following Jack Posobiec on Twitter, you should. He's hilarious. Like, first of all, there's hard-hitting news, but he just inserts absolutely hysterical stuff into the conversation. Between him and Mike Johnson, between him and Mike Davis, not Mike Johnson, the real Mike Davis, you will never cease to be entertained and informed on X. I know that we are, at least around here. So, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this has only helped this Lomez guy and his publication, because, I mean, the very niche guy, and I have some of the books from the publishing house, from some like Spanish Civil War memoirs from republished from back in the day, and but those are very niche publications. But now Posobiec and Rufo are retweeting this guy and promoting him. I think I saw that he's supposed to be on Bannon's War Room today.
Yes, I saw that.
Like, this is the Streisand effect in action.
It is. It is. That's a good one. Well, the next topic I think may have been on both of our lists, but it's one we got to talk about.
Oh, if it's the one in both of our lists, I found a different one, so you could.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, fine. I don't want to have anything on your list either.
Well, I wanted more content for the viewers.
Fine. When you
We didn't want to cheat them. They thought they were getting a few of each.
No one's going to get cheated during this next thing when it finally happens. All of us will win.
So true.
Joe Biden and Donald Trump have agreed to debate. If I had the crowd sound effect, this is where I would put it in. I don't have a sound effect pad though.
We should get that.
I should.
That would be awesome.
I know where to buy it and hit the quick sound effects. Donald, what I said would never happen. I still hold that it's not going to happen. Something is going to happen, and it's not going to happen. Pardon me. Donald Trump and Joe Biden have decided they are ready to rumble. Joe Biden offered 2 debates. Donald Trump said yes. Bring it on, Chachi, or whatever he said, something like that. We'll go through it. I can't believe it's going to happen. Supposedly, we're going to have a debate in June, and then we're going to have another debate in, what did I see, September, I think. But the first one will be June 27th, supposedly at CNN in Atlanta. I first of all, why? Why can't we just, can we just have a rumble debate and a legitimate, real, literal, ready to rumble? And it's on Rumble, and then we let, like, we'll even bring in Chris Wallace, terrible leftist, Chris Wallace, and then Dan Bongino. Let those two do it. Wouldn't that be fun? But no, it's going to be at CNN again. I don't know why Trump agrees to this, except that he's not afraid of him. But anyway, here is your offer. Joe Biden decided to throw down, hoe down with his little TikTok cut style offer, and he gave out the debate. So here's that. Take a look at Joe Biden's debate challenge in his own words.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Okay. The Wednesdays line is kind of funny.
Yeah.
That was a cheap shot, but it was kind of funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then I look at this and I say, you're challenging Donald Trump, who can freewheel for 5 hours. I've been there in person and I've seen it. You're challenging that dude to a 90-minute debate, and your challenge was a very heavily edited few-second video.
I noticed how many cuts there were in that.
And that's where I think...
That's when he paused and started drooling. Like, get the mop.
Well, they could say,
He's
oh, well,
drooling
this is a
again.
TikTok-style thing, and of course there's little cuts and edits because that's the modern style. It's like, yeah, but your guy can't talk for more than one phrase at a time. So CNN's going to have some overtime work
They're
on their
powering up the
shoulders.
cyborg right now.
Well-
That's why they put out the debate challenge, because the cyborg is ready to go.
I mean, this again, though, the CNN hosts at this point, they are going to be hitting the gym regularly now to be able to carry their weight, their share of the load at this debate, because it's not going to be Joe Biden. I mean, I beat him twice. Oh my gosh. The 2020 debates were a mess, but it's not because Joe Biden wiped the floor with Donald Trump. It's because Trump was being held back by literally everyone. All of the hosts plus Biden. It was a hot pile of garbage. But it wasn't because Joe Biden is some master debater. He used to be good. He ain't no more. So there you go. He but that was the debate throwdown, and then Donald Trump responded on Truth Social. He said, "Crooked Joe Biden's the worst debater I've ever faced. He can't put 2 sentences together. Crooked is also the worst president in the history of the United States by far. It's time for a debate so that he can explain to the American people his highly destructive open border policy, new and ridiculous EV mandates, the allowance of crushing inflation, high taxes, and his really weak foreign policy," all in caps in case you couldn't tell, "which is allowing the world to catch on fire. I am ready and willing to debate Crooked Joe at the 2 proposed times in June and September. I would strongly recommend more than 2 debates, and for excitement purposes, a very large venue. Although Biden is supposedly afraid of crowds, that's only because he doesn't get them." Just tell me when. I'll be there. Let's get ready to rumble. The trash talking is incredible. And I mean, truthfully, Biden started it. Trump responded in his style. Biden can't do the Trump thing. He should just stop. I mean, Biden can't do anything, to be clear, but he can't really pull it off. So there you go, folks. We get a debate June 27th.
Have you heard the Shane Gillis has a bit on Trump debating Biden, because he says that Trump's strategy is to get in his opponent's head But you get in Joe Biden's head, and there's nothing in there.
Can't do anything.
Right.
And that's, I mean, honestly, if you look at it, that's partly, interestingly enough, and again, I'm not here to proclaim mental incompetence on anyone. I have no credentials to do so. But if you look at the debates politically, I've been watching presidential debates my entire life. Not nearly as long as some other people, but I've been watching them my whole life. The 2016 ones was very interesting because he got to Hillary. He got to her. Like, she was visibly uncomfortable. She was shook, to say what the youngsters are saying. Is that a Gen Z thing, or is
That's
that
a millennial thing.
That's a millennial thing? I'm not even in touch with my own generation.
Maybe on the lower end of millennials.
We're going to call it the lower end of millennials, and I'm going to identify as an elder millennial. That's how that's going to work, folks. But he really got to her. Like, he was sharp, and she was visibly annoyed at times. Now, she's a very, very, very masterful politician and debater, so she did a good job holding it in check. But you could tell. Joe Biden didn't seem annoyed, or Joe Biden just almost seemed confused. Like, when Trump would go off on him, it was almost like Joe Biden, and he would just kind of stop and then go back to his point. He couldn't do more than stay on the script at best. It really didn't work. So that is an interesting factor. However, putting him out in front of a stage, that in and of itself, because the last 2 years he has declined significantly. Like, watching him talk to people on hot mic moments where he's just, casual moments, he does not look with it or well. I mean, all of the stuff about conspiracy land, they're drugging him up, this and that and the other, it's not really that much conspiracy land.
Right.
Because you watch video of the guy talking to people walking in and out of the State of the Union or something, he looks like a drugged up old person in a nursing home. I'm not even here to be conspiratorial. I'm just saying that's what it looks like.
Well, yeah.
You put that guy on a stage with a highly competent individual who may be a flamethrower that you don't like, but can obviously, he means what he's saying, even if you disagree with him. That contrast has got to be wildly stark. And that's a very different Joe Biden than even 4 years ago.
Right.
I say 4 years now at this point.
Well, and I think a president has just got to be drugged up to some degree. I think that Joe Biden just needs it more than most, because being president is quite the job. You work insane work days, pretty much nonstop, 24 hours a day. You're working.
Trump's the only one who's come out the other side not looking a whole lot older.
Right.
Of course, Trump went in without a whole lot of natural hair or skin color to begin with.
Right.
Yeah, that's the benefits. You couldn't tell.
Right.
He looked sharp. He has gotten in fighting shape, though. I could tell. He dropped some pounds, and he looks a little lean and mean. But
He looks good.
anyway, I can't believe this is happening. I've got to imagine something is going to happen.
Well,
they're like, maybe they're hoping that Trump gets thrown in jail and can't do the June debate, and then we'll figure out September later, because they can't let their dude on stage. There's no way that the Biden camp is going to let him on stage next to Trump.
They've got to have some kind of plan, otherwise they wouldn't have agreed to it.
You would think, because they can't just be counting on the moderators to hold Trump at bay. That's going to go badly. Any clip of it, like, you can make your own TikTok clips. You don't need this giant liability to be able to make those. I don't know. I'm not sure. My conspiracy brain tells me this is not going to happen. Something will come up, and they are expecting there to be no debate. They would never have agreed to it if they thought it was actually going to happen. If it does happen, all of us win. It will be fantastic. Epic. Bigly. Bigly. So there you go. Trump and Biden are debating, supposedly. But you heard it here first. I say the June 27 debate at CNN, that ain't going to happen. That's my prediction. You heard it here first. They need a debate on Tucker. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Tucker encounter. Wild encounters.
Yeah.
Encounters of the third kind. We could have all kinds of Tucker play-ons, and he could just sit down and go with these two guys.
That would be awesome. That would never happen.
It would never happen.
They just have to go to the
Biden couldn't
establishment,
do it. Trump could,
regime, media people, and...
Trump interviews are actually really fascinating, by the way. If you've never watched a lot of Trump interviews, go and watch them, because the long-form ones, he's really different than when he's just on in front of a crowd. It's very interesting. I've never seen any public figure like him. It's very, very interesting. But anyway, that's going to happen. So they say. Oh, so there's my next one.
My next one, Epic Times. We're heading over to the Epic Times, the respectable publication, the venerable, foremost conservative publication. Great website.
Pause.
Absolutely wonderful.
Pause. Jack Posobiec's Twitter feed is the foremost conservative. No. Jack, if you're watching, you can retweet us. Just saying.
This is from a few days ago. I saw this a few days ago and saved it. It's from May 9th, so that's almost, or that is a week ago now. So this is from last Thursday. How anti-white discrimination became a conservative issue. And this this article breaks down the changing views on the way conservatives talk about race and how it is, gotten more in touch with reality, which I think is a good thing. And it makes the case that a lot of this is because of the Supreme Court overturning affirmative action, which allowed people to look at the issue directly, because the left was out there debating it, so the right could say, well, this is bad because this discriminates against white people, and that is bad. So the article is a good read. It might be behind the premium paywall, though, but we can share some of the interesting talking points. Tucker had...
I can make a PDF.
Also that.
Don't tell them I said that.
Don't tell them. They'll come after you.
We'll figure it out.
Tucker interviewed... I forgot the guy's name. He interviewed a guy that wrote a book. Jeremy Carl just came out with this book called The Unprotected Class, talking about anti-white racism all over the United States and how it's going today. And Tucker's got a huge platform, as we all know. We've all seen Tucker. We've all seen some episodes. So this is really good. And Elon Musk boosted it. He was like, wow, concerning, which makes sense coming from Elon Musk because he came from South Africa. And anti-white discrimination is very real in South Africa. Very real and very dangerous. So this is an interesting thing, and I think it will be good to be able to talk about these issues more directly, because a lot of people, I remember in 2020, so many people instantly just got demoralized and turned into self-hating white people, which is not good. We should not hate ourselves. We should be fine with who we are and, not be ashamed of immutable characteristics. That's just completely wrong. And that's true of any race, anybody of any race. But I think it's good that we as a conservative movement are looking at this issue more directly. And this piece also talks about a couple people, Richard Hananiah, who I haven't read a ton of him, but he is another instance of doxing just not working at all. He got doxed and they didn't even pull his book deal. He had some book deal and they just kept moving forward with it. And I think that Scott Greer is another good example of this, where he got doxed and was ousted from Conservative Inc. back in 2017 or so. But now Conservative Inc. is retweeting him and repeating his talking points. So doxing did work on him, but the Overton window has shifted enough to where he's back in it and he can just operate under his real face. So yeah, what do you think about this, Ryan?
No, I think, backing into this from maybe a different angle, I think that this is a real thing. It's pardon me. This has been pushed around a lot. The people who actually go after this and talk about anti-white discrimination, discrimination against whites, like Matt Walsh and Coulter, they get painted into a corner very quickly. And I think that a lot of us are very hesitant to follow along in that path because it's like, well, that's dicey. That's dicey. I don't want to be out there defending whiteness. That's not the point. The point is they are literally, welcome to critical theory. White people are the problem. Whiteness is the problem. The white people are your oppressors. Because the whole point of Marxist critical theory, we have to create classes, oppressed and oppressor. This is what we do culturally now. So we do it based on race. We do it based on sex. We do it based on fill in the blank. Oh, the patriarchy. Oh, the white people. Oh, the European colonists. It is a quite real, very prevalent problem in society. The pushing forward of critical theory, the anti-white, anti-Christian, let's be very abundantly clear, anti-Christian, anti-white movement. Everything that founded this nation, everything that founded us, the freedoms, the prosperity that we have had, not that everyone was browbeaten into being a Christian or going to church, but those undergirding principles that were there that have made us the free, that is what is under attack, because critical theory must break the system to replace it with its Marxist theory. And we all know what that means. The removal of God, the state becomes God, the state becomes your all-powerful, all-knowing, all-everything deity. Worship the state. That's the direction we're heading. That's worth calling out. And I think that we should remember to say, you're the one, like, don't shy away from this. Don't shy away from calling out white discrimination as a Christian, as a conservative, as a whatever it is, because that's exactly what they're doing, and they say so. That's what critical theory is all about. They're literally saying the white Christians are your oppressors, they're evil, get rid of them inherently because they're Christian and they're white. Calling that out does not mean you have to just suddenly say, I'm white, I'm awesome, and I'm better than everyone else. That's what they want you to think,
Right.
so that you cow away from the whole thing. That is not what it's about. And I do think that Matt Walsh is very good at this. I don't actually pay attention to Ann Coulter anymore. Sorry, I'm not positive how she's exactly messaging on this. But Matt Walsh does a pretty good job usually saying, you people are white haters, and I'm not even a pro, like, woo, look at me, I'm awesome, I'm white. I don't care. You care. That's the problem. You are literally making a racist, race-based decision. You're the ones doing it. We have to be laser focused on that message, but I don't think we can shy away from it any longer because they are winning on too many fronts, especially across college campuses.
Right.
They're winning the critical theory, break the system and replace it. And what they're replacing it with is nonsense. It's chaos that is made to just break down culture so that they can take control.
Yeah.
So I think that this is something Christians have shied away from, that conservatives have shied away from, and I think it's something that we should not be afraid of, because that's the whole point.
Right.
Is they want to bring up something uncomfortable, and they have conditioned us for 30 plus years with political correctness to not want to be the ones to talk about it. Shut up, I'm going to talk about it.
Because it's
where we're
like
at.
racist to talk about
Right.
any sort of racial issues unless you're specifically hating white people.
Which they literally are shoving you into the no-win situation of 30 plus years talking about you can't be racist, you can't be racist, you can't be racist. And now all of a sudden they're saying you dirty white people are destroying everything. So you go, but that sounds racist. How dare you talk about race?
Yeah.
That's when you stand up and say, okay,
Right.
hold on.
Right.
First of all, you're the racist. Second of all, you are a home wrecker, a nation wrecker, an everything
Right.
wrecker. Like, it's not time to shy away from it. It's time to realize, you know what, 30 plus years of political correctness, I'm going to flush that down the toilet and tell you to your face, you are a racist, hateful person. Get out of my country.
Right.
Like, and I'm making big sweeping statements, but the point being, we have been cowed into being afraid to address this, and that's been very much on purpose. That has been very much on purpose.
Yeah.
We're there. Anti-white discrimination. It's not a conservative issue. This ought to be an American issue, because aren't we for the moving past, the putting behind us, the putting to rest any kind of discrimination? Isn't that kind of the whole point? Well, on the color of your skin, immutable characteristics.
Right.
To your point, yes, we discriminate on very important things all the time, and we should. But this whole race-based discrimination, sex-based discrimination, you can't help that you're a woman, that you're this color, that you're a man, that you're this color. This is an immutable characteristic. This has nothing to do with your choices, your values, your system.
Well, sex-based discrimination, I think, is very different.
Well, and there are definitely cases for
Because
that.
I think there are a lot more proper cases in society for that.
Right. Well, and the problem is there are nuances to all of this. I'm making a statement plowing through something, but there's always nuance. But in large part, we always seek to move past these things, at least in the wrong direction. And here someone is taking it and moving in the opposite wrong direction. And we have to be able to address that and not be afraid of saying something about it.
Right. And it's tough because trying to move past the discriminatory society is the left's purported project, and that is how it is under that banner that they smuggle in all these other things. So my concern is not so much, let's do what they want to do, but do it right and differently. My concern is more so we have to defend ourselves, and even though maybe in a one-on-one conversation it might be rhetorically beneficial to say, oh, well, we can achieve these goals that you want differently, and maybe that's what I want too. I think generally, speaking about it publicly, that when you say, okay, well, we want these goals, you're granting them legitimacy and you're granting some credence to their system of values that, and it is this part of the woke religion is that the original sin is racism. So when we're buying into their religious system, whenever we're making our primary concern racial issues, rather than defending ourselves and saying, okay, no, you're wrong. Which is why I don't bother saying, okay, the leftists are the real racists, because that's their word, that's their tactic, calling people racist. That is their frame. So, yeah, I don't think it's helpful for conservatives ever to say somebody is a racist or a fascist or something, because that only helps the left, even when we're saying that they are those things.
I agree. I think that's where it's at. Actually, on that vein, I've got another. I've got a little bit of another one here. This is interestingly enough. We're about to dive into. Hopefully you don't mind. We're going to dive off into the purely Protestant side of the equation for a moment, but I think Martin Luther. I think it has. Oh, hey, hold on. We need a thumbnail.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, if you're not on the live stream, we got to have a thumbnail, and it's got to be flashy. It's got to get us attention. Here we are. But I think, though, as much as this is kind of happening in the Protestant side of the equation when it comes to culture and politics, and I got about 3 stories here I'm going to just zip through real quick. I think that this has to do with Christians in America at large. The language here is this, and it is specifically off into the evangelical or the Protestant side, whatever phrase you want to ascribe to it. But I think this is a lesson learned for Christians, period, in America. So here's what it is. I saw a few articles that made me think of something. First of all, the Washington Times talked about a new survey. Evangelicals prefer religious, not political definitions of the term, a survey shows. Now, evangelical, this phrase has come up, but I feel like now I hear that more in a political sense than I ever do before. By that, what they mean are politically active Christians that aren't Catholic. That's kind of what does that sound like a fair assessment?
Yeah.
Most of the time when I hear people say evangelicals in a new sense, that's kind of what they mean. They don't mean the Catholics, they mean the politically active Protestants. So, but again, evangelical, again, that's a word, to evangelize. That means something, and it has no connotations to political activity. But anyway, this whole thing, basically there's a big survey out now that shows that a lot of people are uncomfortable with the phrase evangelical because they feel like it's defined by political things, or that it's got this section of religious beliefs around it, and it's this fundamentalist conservative. Now, what I'm seeing here as I read through this Washington Times article and this new survey, which Gray Matter Research for the Christian marketing agency Infinity Concepts, they did this. They conducted this study. It's called "Beyond the Label: Unmasking Evangelical Identity." What I'm reading here is a lot of people who belong more toward the amorphous blob of modern Christianity in America that don't want to be associated with some of these radical fundamentalists, as they would describe people. And I know what they're going at here, but what I would look at and say, I think what you mean is biblical worldview. People like you and me who are pretty hardcore on just this is what the Bible says, and here's how I've built my worldview around it. But this is very interesting because it's definitely leading in an interesting direction culturally, politically, for Christians in America. David French, did you see this? David French was supposed to be, well, he was a PCA Presbyterian Church in America. These are not the gay Presbyterians. That's PCUSA. To be clear, PCUSA is the gay Presbyterians. PCA is the non-gay Presbyterians. I'm simplifying a little bit there. PCUSA are the ones who have gone off into a very progressive stance.
Yes.
PCA is typically more conservative. So, David French, our least favorite conservative, quote-unquote, writer, terrible author, and horrible, noted anti-Trumper, he was supposed to be the conservative columnist for the New York Times. That's everything you need to know right there, the description of him. He was supposed to be a panelist in an upcoming PCA administrative committee. This was a big assembly in Richmond, Virginia, coming up next month. The seminar was supposed to be supporting your pastor and church leaders in a polarized political year. Well, David French has the last few years, I would argue, shown his complete lack of understanding about our American Christian heritage, Christianity in general, and America in general. And that's not just because he doesn't like Donald Trump. It's all of the reasons why. He's gone way farther than he probably should have gone, and he has done a lot more damage to what used to be. He was a big darling of the right. You know, National Review, right? Wasn't he a National Review guy?
Yes.
That's what I thought. But anyway, he was announced as part of this panel. And there was a little bit of a problem, an uprising that came up. And he used to be PCA, but he doesn't call that denomination home anymore. And I don't actually know the circumstances around that. I'll have to go look. But sure enough, that panel just got canceled. And it's not going to happen in Richmond next month. And then the third and tucked into this is a very interesting interview. I would encourage you to go and watch this. I think we've talked about it briefly, but this came out after we had our discussion on Christian nationalism. Tucker Carlson, on his Tucker Carlson Encounter, which you should go subscribe to Tucker if you're not one yet, go do it. A 1-hour video, he sat down with Doug Wilson, the now growing infamous, quote-unquote, leader of the Christian nationalists. But Doug, yeah, and I mean, first of all, kind of like what we did, because we totally did it first. Doug Wilson, significantly older than us and has been around a lot longer. But, Doug Wilson as a pastor and his congregation and the group of churches in, Moscow, Idaho, his Idaho church and all of that stuff aside, Canon Press published a book by Stephen Wolfe called The Case for Christian Nationalism. That then got associated and just stuck to Doug Wilson and everything else. I'm not here to talk about his church. I'm not here to talk about their theological or doctrinal beliefs. But that happened, and that's where he has come to the place where he's on Tucker. And Tucker says, so what about this Christian nationalist thing? Aren't you the premier Christian nationalist? And Doug Wilson was like, well, this guy published a book with us, and we published it, and we kind of took it on, I guess. But then, if MSNBC, which we talked about, if MSNBC's definition of a Christian nationalist is someone who thinks that our rights come from God and not government, then I guess I'm a Christian nationalist because I believe that. But then they proceeded to have what I thought was an incredibly informative 1-hour discussion. Did you ever watch the whole thing?
No.
Okay, you should.
Okay.
Watch the whole thing. It was incredibly informative because Doug Wilson went through, this is why, what they mean. Don't be afraid of this word Christian nationalism. It's a boogeyman. They've come up with a phrase, and they are scaring people out of even being called evangelicals, or they are waking people up to look at the David Frenches of the world and say, get out of here. You do not represent my Christianity. Because what do you mean by Christian nationalism? You mean, I love my country and I am a Christian. If by these two things you mean I'm a Christian nationalist, then yes, I recognize that this state, this republic that we exist in and operate is inside of a world that is operated and run by God, a higher power that is above government. The people coming in scaremongering, fear-mongering, and trying to scare you with this Christian nationalist stuff, these are the folks who do not believe in God. This is an atheistic, humanistic religion called Marxism at the political front, and what they want to do is remove God from the equation. Well, what happens when you remove God and there is no God? What becomes the most powerful thing? The state. The state becomes the deity. And he goes into this, all the way back to Rome. We're throwing Christians to the lions in the Colosseum. It's not about who you do worship. It's that you would not worship Caesar as the deity. This is kind of a little bit of a modern day version. This is a recognition on our part that these folks are replacing, not just trying to remove religion from public sector. They are trying to remove Christianity from the public sector because their religion must be front and center.
Right.
Their religion is humanism, stateism. The state is God. So he goes through why, in fact, if that's the opposite of Christian nationalist, then yes, I guess I'm a Christian nationalist because I understand that my nation exists inside a power structure with a higher authority called God, who has given us our rights, who gave us our breath, and now we use government as an institution above men. I say above men, governing men, above, below. We could talk about that. I'll choose my words carefully there. But in this exercising of authority over men, government is not the ultimate authority. We recognize and properly restrained government to recognize the things that come directly from God that are stuck with us, inalienable rights and dignity. So it's a very interesting thing. And I look at it and I say, this goes across this new wave of, I don't want to be called an evangelical because it sounds too political, or I don't want to be a Christian nationalist because I'm not a Christian nationalist, or, oh, David French is a hack and shouldn't come to the PCA thing and talk to us here. I'm seeing these rumblings, and I think that people are starting to get, I hope that people are starting to get, that this is nothing to do with being overly political as a Christian or entangling your religion and politics too closely. These are not the problem. These things are not the problem. The problem is the radical Marxist left that wants to disentangle, remove Christianity from who we are as Americans because their religion of the state must be put in. That is dangerous. That will lead to the slaughter of millions of people. That will lead to the 20th century communism times who knows how many, if we see it happen across the modern world, because there won't be an America to challenge it like there was in the 20th century. I think that shift is rumbling now more than it ever has before, because folks like Doug Wilson are getting attention, folks like David French are getting canceled in a good way, and then a lot of people are kind of struggling with this, so much so that there are polls about the names that we give these sections. And again, it's the evangelicals and the PCA and Doug Wilson. These are a lot of Protestant examples, but I think this is Christendom in America. The Christians of America have a great fork in the road ahead of us, and we must take the right direction, because the other one leads to servitude to an omniscient state. That's what we're going to allow to have power. And the state isn't omniscient or omnipotent, but if we give those people power, they will exercise it, and the J6 folks getting thrown in prison will look like nothing compared to what's on the way. The trampling of rights.
Yeah.
I see that rumbling. I hope that I don't think that the decision and shift has happened, but I think that we are very quickly approaching that, and a lot of people are starting to wake up to it.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. I mean, I don't have as much of a dog in this fight, seeing as that I'm not Protestant, but
well, and these are Protestant examples, but you know what I mean.
Right.
This is all of us. This is Christians in America. Catholics have the same thing coming. Like look at some.
But I think Catholics are doing much worse on the issue, because I think most American Catholics are not very good Catholics that vote overwhelmingly. Not overwhelmingly, but I'm pretty sure the majority of Catholics in the United States vote Democrat, and are pro-choice and don't even believe in basic Catholic doctrine. So I don't even know why they call themselves Catholic. But
there's a lot of cultural Catholicism.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of cultural Christianity of both Catholicism and Protestant. We all show up at church. Yeah, but what do you do about that?
Right.
What do you do with that?
Right.
So that's why I say this consequential decision, for those of us that understand this is coming, and I think that it's getting broader and bigger, because we're approaching the point where those of us who are putting wheels to our faith in a political and cultural sense are under attack by the left, because our religion directly challenges theirs. It is a religious fight. It is a spiritual fight, period.
Yeah.
But there is less and less and less room to be a cultural Catholic or a cultural evangelical or Protestant, i.e. this list, I don't want to be an evangelical. There's less room to just be a cultural version of that than ever before, because as the left gets more rabid, we are having to stand up stronger. You're going to have to choose. That's the fork in the road that's coming. You either just decide, this doesn't really mean anything to me. I show up obligatorily at Mass or at church service or whatever. Or I am in this. I am one of them, and you people are liars and hacks and will not run my country.
Yeah.
I think that's the crux here. There's becoming less room for that middle ground of just, I show up to Mass. I show up to Lakewood. No offense, Joel Osteen, but offense. It's a terrible church. And no offense to Texas. We don't hold Joel Osteen against you guys as a total.
That's good.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Blue Bell.
We
Blue
make
Bell
up
made
for
up
it.
for it.
Yeah.
Blue Bell made up for it.
I was going to say Buc-ee's, but we have lots of things to make up for it.
Or if you're in Louisiana, Boussets. Anyway, if you don't know, Buc-ee is spelled really weird and it looks like Bousset. So in the French quarters, we're going to call it something different. Anyway, I'm extrapolating a point out of several different things, but I think that there is less room for being a cultural Christian, in the sense that, like, I don't really have any, pillars of strength beneath it or not. It's just I just happen to go to church.
Right.
It is time now to become a Christian in culture and politics.
Yep.
So does that mean Christian nationalist? If that's what you think that, then fine, yes. But anyway, I'm seeing the rumblings of that all over. What's next for you? And then I got another one.
I found it was actually a tweet or an X post from I/O. It's a very interesting account on X that usually gets boosted by the illustrious Mr. Musk. But he said, a glimpse into the dystopian dysfunction of American inner-city public education. At Ballou High School in D.C., only 3% of students are math proficient and only 5% reading proficient, and yet 70% graduate. Annual cost is $25,000 per pupil, which is the second highest in any state in the country, only surpassed by New York City. But this is shocking that 0% science proficiency, 5% reading proficiency, 3% math proficiency, 1% passed at least one AP exam, but 70% of them graduate. And I'm just wondering, like, it's shocking that that they are graduating so many people that don't even know how to read. How are you even going to read a restaurant menu?
You don't need to. Elon will just put a chip in your brain. You can order your Slurpees that way, so you don't ever have to leave your chair.
Yeah, these people don't. In
case you've ever seen WALL-E, that's where we're headed.
That is where we're headed.
Pixar was right.
Fully automated luxury space communism.
Fully automated luxury space communism. You and I think, have just created the next either book or album for our band. I don't know.
That term's been around.
No, I know, but that's fantastic. I love it. I don't think I've ever heard it before. I'm going to attribute that to you now.
Oh, okay. So you know. Excellent. Let's go.
Yeah, this is all you.
I'm a poet. Yeah, it's. I just thought that this was here's your black pill for the week. That taxpayer money is just being shoveled into the void, just the absolute void. This school has an incredible school building, extremely modern, looks beautiful. Well, maybe not beautiful, but looks very aesthetically pleasing, and $124 million school building. That's how much it costs to build. And these people aren't even teaching their students how to read or add or multiply, which is insane. There's something very deeply wrong in our school system, and I think that this really has just got to stop. Maybe not everybody. Maybe compulsory education is not the answer. Maybe some people just shouldn't be going to school.
Compulsory education is not the answer. It's a terrible idea. Compulsory education, government education, public schooling, it's terrible.
Now, if I was supreme dictator, I would put forward great compulsory education, but this is just not cutting it.
I would still homeschool my children because I have a problem with the principle of it altogether. Compulsory education. Let me ask you this question: has compulsory education ever created the rise of a civilization in the history of man?
I don't know.
No, because compulsory education didn't exist except in what? Maybe Sparta. We know how that ended. But no, I mean Sparta and the United States.
Plato really liked the Spartans.
Plato did, but guess what? Plato's dead, and we don't have any societies.
But he was right about a lot of things.
He was right about a lot of things, but not that one. No, Plato was a big fan of compulsory education, but on this,
I like Sparta.
Well, guess what? Plato's dead, Sparta's dead, and there's no country named after them. The United States of America, however, is here. No, but I mean, you look across it. This is compulsory education is a very new phenomenon. It's 120, 130 years old.
To all civilizations.
I mean, in practice.
Then. Okay.
In practice, it is 120, 130 years old in America.
So then I could say that. So my answer to your question then would be yes, because could we not attribute the progress in America to compulsory education since then?
What progress? Talking about the technological marvels?
The Industrial Revolution.
The Industrial Revolution. That brought us the rise of labor unions. Yes. No, I mean, I'm not saying that.
I'm more so playing devil's advocate. I do agree.
Compulsory education has destroyed everything. America has, in spite of compulsory education, I would argue, gone into incredible innovation and exploration. But you look back at that, where did that start? That started in the 18th century with men and women who were committed to carving out new things and living freely. And they set up for the very first time, I think in the history of the world, a government that very much respected the innovation and freedom to invent and gave you the fruits of your labor. They did not belong to the state, they belonged to you. That, in the Constitution proper, thank you 1790s, 1789 when that was put forward, 1791 when we got it all spinning off and moving.
USA.
That contributed to an incredible 18th century. And it, we still had our conflicts and bloody conflicts at that over other issues. But the innovation and entrepreneurship of America was already well on its track and led to some great things.
Yes.
And we've handled these problems, but compulsory education is very new. This is a product of, I guess at the very beginning, Horace Mann was one of the first ones. That's where the Prussian model really came from, or that's where the Prussians got the Prussian model, was from Horace Mann. And then he got laughed out of the country and then came back to Massachusetts. And then John Dewey picked up it, went. There's a great book on this, by the way. Alex Newman just wrote one called Indoctrinating Our Children to Death. The government schools' war on faith, family, and freedom and how to stop it. He goes into, if you want to know the history and why it's a problem, that's, I think, one of the best books where he has smashed together all that information and tells you where it all started and why it's patently un-American, it's un-Christian, and it's actually not educational. It is schooling. We have fit together, here are the things I need you to know to be a good cog in the wheel of society.
It teaches
not
you how
to think for yourself and go and be a leader and build civilizations. So our founding fathers did not go through a system like we have. So it's not just compulsory, it's other things too, but it's got certain connotations to it.
Right. Teaches how to be a factory worker instead of an entrepreneur. But I mean, I don't even think that Baloo High School is training good factory workers. I don't know what they're training.
At this point, I don't know. Matrix pod hosts.
Yeah, pretty much.
Something?
Human batteries.
I don't know, but yeah, that's true. We're not even training good factory workers anymore. Do you have anything else on your list?
Nope.
Okay, cool. Well, the quick hit, we'll include this in redacted, but we're not going to go over it. Daily Caller just published. There is a lot of very interesting stuff coming out. The World Professional Association of Transgender Health, in a conference in 2022, had some very interesting. These were records, videos obtained by open records requests from the Daily Caller News Foundation. Doctors were discussing at the 2022 World Professional Association of Transgender Health that children don't fully grasp the consequences of potentially sterilizing drugs and medical procedures. Some of them even acknowledge that the gender medical industry often rushes patients through the sex change process. It is all kinds of incredible, oh my gosh, you guys said the quiet part out loud and you never thought anyone would see the recording, but now we have it. Very, very interesting. And sure enough, gender doctors, the people pushing forward this transgenderism on you and your children, people of all ages, they actually have, according to them, no idea about fertility and the long-range effects. They have no idea about the reversibility of any of this stuff. It's a pretty grim reality to look at, and it just adds the fuel to the fire of this is wrong, stop it all now. That's a really interesting thing. Daily Caller, thank you to them for pushing for open record stuff like this. Good for them. I'll include that link. This just came out this week. But the last thing I wanted to say, our buddy, our wild-haired, wild and woolly economic buddy, Javier Milei.
Love that guy.
He's having a good time. Argentina is proving leftists wrong. Latest economic news. He looks like a lunatic. He has the crazed eyes of a lunatic, but Javier Milei is saving Argentina and could possibly save the rest of the world if we all pay attention. Inflation was over at 300%, and over 40% of the population were living in poverty. That is when they elected Javier Milei. What they said, Trump-like candidate who wielded chainsaws at political rallies. Maybe Trump could get better. He could get a chainsaw out there to right the ship. He has succeeded. Here's the deal. New reports. For 300% inflation, 40% of the people in poverty when he came in charge. Inflation has dropped from 300 to 11% in Argentina.
Wow.
They have their first modest surplus since 2008. Now, I'll also remind you, Argentina has only been destroyed economically somewhat recently. This is not like a little poor country that's always been. Argentina was a powerhouse through a lot of the 20th century.
Yeah.
A powerhouse. They brought in socialism, and in literally a few years, less than my lifetime, they wrecked the nation to where, your fake fiat currency was just floating through the streets completely worthless because you need bricks of money to be able to buy a loaf of bread. So what's changed? Inflation has fallen to 11%. Last week, Milei, and he came in and cut tons. Like he literally cut all the government agencies down to what, like 11 or something?
Yeah.
He cut so many agencies of the government. But last week, he announced that the country has recorded its first quarterly budget surplus since 2008. Granted, it's just a very modest 0.2% of GDP. But still, the fact that they've actually turned it around, the country that's run deficits for 113 of the last 123 years. Earlier this week, the central bank, which Javier Milei promises he hasn't gotten to it yet, but he's coming around to abolish it. They cut interest rates for the third time in 3 weeks. Now, they're still at an eye-watering 50% in interest rate. 50%.
Wow.
This is stuff that you and I don't understand.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Still, that's starting to feed down into the economy very quick because they've cut 3 times in a row. So guess what? This huge, massive shock against statism orthodoxy is right. And it's being proven right by someone who is willing to make super huge, radical decisions for his nation. And the numbers are just catapulting his direction.
Yeah.
Or I should say free-falling his direction. In this case, a free fall is a good thing, a
Yes.
very good thing. But I mean, like he hasn't even attempted to cut gradually. He's just like, he has literally taken a chainsaw. There's no hiring freezes. There's mass firings, layoffs, getting rid of this, getting rid of that. I mean, he unveiled plans last month to fire another 70,000 state employees.
Awesome.
But I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers. if the numbers continue to fall, the economy starts to move again. It's not like you're even getting people out of a job. You're getting them out of that job, which shouldn't even exist as a state agency. They're going to have plenty of options to go to very soon because we are roaring the economy to life again.
Yeah, if you fix the inflation destroying and the terrible monetary policy destroying the private sector, there will be more investment in the private sector, which means more productive jobs that these people can now get that will actually contribute. And in Austrian economics, I had a professor once tell me that the bust of the boom-bust cycle is like a hangover, that you have two options when you have a hangover, like in real life. You can either wait it out or you can drink more to make it go away, because that's what it is. It's like withdrawal. And so what the Keynesians like to do is they like to drink more. They're like, oh, let's just, let's push interest rates down again. Let's just keep doing that. That is drinking more. That is called taking a shot at 10:30 a.m. in the morning. That's called taking a shot at 10:30 a.m. Javier Milei was like, no, we got to drink water, and my head's gonna hurt, but we got to keep pushing through, and eventually we'll be okay. Which is why it's so hard for people to take on sound economic policy, because it requires that you go through a little bit of the hard part. We don't like to go through the hard part. We like good all the time. Let's just keep on pushing down those interest rates. But you take an alcoholic and cut off his booze supply, he's going to hurt really bad for a long time. So yeah, that's good that he's doing it, because the longer that artificial stimulation of the economy goes on, the worse the bust is going to be.
Mm-hmm. And that's it takes not little action but bold action, which is why we don't want rhinos. Why we're so sensitive to Republicans in name only who do the same big government stuff, but they call themselves on our side. I mean, without a majority in Parliament, he has been ruthless. I love all the descriptions. But I mean, whole government departments have been closed. Ministry of Culture was axed. Anti-Discrimination Agency axed. State-owned news service axed. He massively devalued the peso on day one, took the financial hit up front, and then tore up rent controls, price restrictions, state subsidies, pared back workers' rights, reduced maternity leave, severance compensation, allowed companies to fire workers who went on strike. I just named off a bunch of stuff that's like, ooh, we can't do that. Mm-hmm. I hear that conversation in America all the time. Mm-hmm. Guess what? You don't want to end up where they are and be doing what Javier Milei is having to do. Mm-hmm. Listen and look at what is being cut. Mm-hmm. You and I have an incredible opportunity to see this play out and then be able to go to our representatives and say, this is the bold action I want you to take now. Because look, it actually works. Reducing maternity leave, what do we keep fighting for? The left keeps talking about enhanced paternity leave.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying what is or isn't the right number. What I'm saying is all the things that the left is looking to expand here are all the things that Javier Milei is having to cut wildly to save the country of Argentina. Mm-hmm. And the numbers show it's working. Free markets. Free markets work. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? So there you go. Milei's results speak for themselves. And here's the final. There is a lesson here for any Republican bold enough to learn it. That's you and me. That's you and me. And that's our congressmen and our senators and our state folks, because we let them know what matters to us. So there's an incredible lesson here that we need to take a look at. Javier Milei is kicking butt and taking names and might just, in fact, bring back Argentina into a powerhouse once again. Mm-hmm. There's a long road to go.
I can't wait to go visit.
Actually,
it might be better to visit now while their economy is still in the trash heap, because
it's going to get expensive quick.
Yeah.
There you go. That's our list.
It's caucus time.
That's our list. It's caucus time.
Oh, I was early that time.
At least you weren't forgetful or late. There you go. That's caucus time. It's oh my goodness, Protestants and Catholics and Argentinians. Oh my, we've got too many things to talk about. But there you go. That is our caucus for today. There was just so much stuff piling on.
Yeah, did we break an hour?
Oh yeah, we broke an hour. It's an hour 10 now.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
A new record.
It is. It's a new record for talking. So
thank you all for joining us. Yeah.
Oh, socials, like, share, and subscribe. Send it to a friend. Send it to a liberal. Send it to someone you know who commented how much they loved David French's last article, just to make them mad. Yeah. But then actually talk to them and convince them to come over to our side. And then don't forget, go to unauthorizedcaucus.com.
And we got some good stuff coming up next week. You know what it means if it's noon and it's Thursday?
It's caucus time.
So true.
It's so
See
true.
y'all then.
Bye, everybody.